Hey there, you're listening to the Pursue Your Spark podcast. My name is Heike Yates, and on this show we talk about how to unlock your potential in your fitness lifestyle with tips, strategies, and interviews to help you create the life you love. Hey there, it's Heike Yates with another episode of the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Today's episode is another incredible life that I'm sharing. But, some of the women I asked to be on the show have said, Heike, why you're asking me? I'm a nobody. I'm small. I don't have a huge following. I am not famous. I love to be on your podcast, but why do you ask me? And the answer is because you are incredible. You have an amazing life to share, and people want to know from normal, regular people, because guess what? I am finding out such amazing stories and learn so much as I interview the women on the Pursue Your Spark podcast. The courage, the strength, the sheer amazing personalities that they have is something that the whole world needs to know. And I am blessed that I am the one who gets to ask the question and learn so much. Today's interview is not an exception. Today's guest is Angela Marie Maxwell. We have known each other for a long time, and this girl just took off and started walking the earth. Just like that, it seemed. She disappeared for years, and I found her on social media, and I was going, whoa, Angela, what are you doing? She's walking the earth. And you will listen today and enjoy and be in awe about what she has adventured in the last 5 years of her walking the earth. She says, fear is real. Being fearless is just a myth. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Angela Marie Maxwell. So welcome to the Pursue Your Spark podcast. And I have another incredible guest to share. Actually, two guests, but we'll get to that in a minute. My friend Angela Marie Maxwell worked with me about 5 years ago, maybe even longer. We worked together at a health club, and then she just took off. And she decided that she's going to walk the earth. She's not only walking the earth, she's also a TED talker. And her TED Talk is called Courage is a Verb. So I'd like to welcome Angela, because you guys are going to be blown away by her story, and her mom, Sue.
Hi. Good morning. Thanks for having us. It's such an honor.
It's such a pleasure. Because you guys, currently Angela is in North Carolina, right?
A little bit north, in Virginia.
In Virginia now. So she's walking towards DC, and when she contacted me and she said, I'll be in your neighborhood, I was like, oh my God, I have to see you. We have to see each other. And she says, guess what? My mom's going to walk with me.
I am.
There you go. So let's get to Angela's story first. So you grabbed your bags, you left DC, and then you started walking. What happened, Angela?
Well, I think it's one of those rare times we have in our lives where we get this idea for something. It's a compelling idea. It's probably a little bit crazy. And oftentimes we talk ourselves out of it. And when I had this idea to walk, I just knew that this was something I was born to do. And to go ahead and probably dispel the myth, I'm not fearless. There is nothing, fearless about, attempting to walk across 4 continents. So I was terrified.
4 continents by now.
Yeah. So I'm on my 4th. So this, I walked from Bend, Oregon. I was living there at the time, and that's where I started. And so I only walked to Portland, and it took me about 2 weeks. And then I flew to Australia, where I just kind of let myself dive into the Australian outback. Yeah. So it just became a bit of a.
So you woke up. So you woke up and you said, I need to walk.
It was a bit of a wake up. I mean, I think the idea set in. I let it ruminate for probably about 3 months. And then once I knew I was going to do this, completely sell everything, change my life, I gave it about 9 months, just like a pregnancy, to plan, prepare, research before I headed out the door.
So tell us about that process, because I mean, when people see the video and some of the pictures of you, you have a little cart that you carry around with you, a pull behind you, I should say, and a duffel bag, and how did you know what you needed? How did you prepare for something that you didn't know was going to end, or when it will end?
Well said. Well, I think the first step for me was kind of researching what women have walked and how did they walk. Oh. So I started finding women like Fiona Campbell, who was a British woman who walked. She attempted 4 continents, and she had usually 1 to 2 crew members that would help support her. Right. And then I researched Robin Davidson, who walked the Australian outback, and I just started to use these women's stories, their own stories of courage, following their calling, being terrified, but still doing it anyway. And that actually gave me the courage to then, after 3 months of this idea, go to all my friends and family and say, so this is what I'm preparing for. And, who took a cart? Who took a backpack? Did they walk on the trails? Did they walk on the road? So I researched how other people did it first so I could learn from them.
And then you started shopping.
Yeah. I do. There's a moment that I really remember when I was sitting in my bay window in Oregon, and it was I started on May 2nd of 2014, and you're known to have a little bit of a last minute snowstorm sometimes, even here on the East Coast. Mm. So it was, I think, in maybe late April, and I was watching the snow fall, and it was 2 feet of snow, and I looked out the window with my snuggly blanket, and I thought, I'm going to be camping in that soon. What was I thinking? I did have a kind of a freak out moment. I cried. I thought, oh my God, what am I getting into? I've already told everybody. But there's something about being held accountable too. I wanted to do it. The fear was creeping in. I thought, well, I'm still cozy. I don't have to go anywhere. But I had said I was, and I liked that I was being held accountable, for my dream.
Yeah. Now, when you started shopping, you said you wanted a cart. So a cart is easier to pull behind you than schlepping a backpack, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. So I went for, I've named my cart Athena, which I'm now on Athena the third. But the first, yes. So I'm on my third cart. But the first one was just a pram. It was a 2-seater child's pram that you could run with.
Right.
And I had someone make some aluminum poles that I could pull. I pulled Athena for the first, I think, 2 years before I was walking across Turkey, and she snapped. And that's when I started looking for another cart. And now I had one cart for about 2 months I didn't really like. Then I got another one replaced by Kai Fuchs from Mono Walker Design. He actually makes walking carts. It's a thing.
And who is
that? Carts for people walking.
What company is that?
Mono Walker Design.
So we're going to put the links, all the stuff we're talking about, guys, we're going to put in the show notes. So if you have the deep desire to do what Angela did, you know where to get good stuff that works. And she's tested it. Because I can imagine I used to have a jogging stroller with my kids in them. I was like, she used that thing? I was like, they work really well, but for walking so far and such a distance and carrying all your stuff with you. Okay, so we put links in the show notes. Also, guys, we're doing a video, of course. So you can see Angela and Sue and the three of us talking, having an awesome time and learning so much about this lifestyle. So you got the card, but what did you bring for clothes? How did you plan on for the first leg of your journey? You knew where you're going to go.
Well, I knew I was jumping right into the Australian outback. And I knew also that you always, take way more than you need. And then B is, I kind of thought to myself, I'm only going to be walking. I don't need to look good. So I started, it's actually when I was going into the Australian outback, I started this rule of twos, which is 2 pairs of pants, 2 shirts. You get a little bit more room with underwear and socks. Sorry, we live near the largest naval base in the United States, so you will hear some jets going overhead.
Okay.
And then I brought, like a cotton dress. But I also started the rule of no mirror. And I thought it's interesting because I didn't want to be rolling out of my tent, thinking about what do I look like? How does my hair look? And that was really liberating. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I still have that rule of thumb. Unfortunately, we do have cameras. So when you have that compulsion, it's easy to just turn on your camera, but
because I have to say that your skin looks so healthy and glowing. I'm like, peeps, we got to just not put makeup on our faces and let our hair just grow and go out in the sun and fresh air and enjoy life without too much stress, I would think. So let's go back to so you had your clothes. So what about food? Do you bring cookware?
Yeah, I had one small little pot, one little stove, and I knew kind of what other people had done was doable for me. And it's actually been the way that I've been eating, which I am excited to hopefully change a little bit. But that would be the basics of, in the morning, I would do a little bit of oatmeal. In the day, I tend to not snack. If I do, it would be like some mixed nuts. And then at night, it's always the glorious 2-minute noodles. And it really
what is the glorious 2-minute meals? What is that? What might that be?
Well, it's interesting. I would think that after, almost 5 years now being on the road, I've learned how to make 2-minute noodles just gorgeous and tasty, but I haven't. I'm really, I'm like a creature of habit. So if I know it works, I just stick with it. The only thing I try to do is I do try to find, things that I don't have to necessarily cook for long. Okay. So I don't want to use a lot of fuel, right? So I want something that, for example, you have couscous where the couscous can just soak in the boiling water. So I only have to burn minimal amounts of fuel. Yeah.
So do you bring your foods or some of your foods?
Yes. So I'll usually it depends on the landscape, but I'll usually look ahead in terms of how long do I have before I have another resource. Mm-hmm. So for example, in the outback, it would be sometimes a month or 2. Same in Mongolia. So I would actually have to count out, if I had 1 packet of noodles each night, this is how long it would go for. Okay. Yeah. And in the States, I have a feeling, being kind of fast food central, I have a feeling it's not going to be very long before there's going to be a resource, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because you guys need to know that Angela lives on $5 a day. So it's not like one of my friends said, so she's walking with her cart and then she's going to stop at a restaurant and eat. I'm like, no. And then she says, so she's going to go and walk. And then she goes to a hotel and takes a hot shower and watches TV. And I said, no. So what does a day in your walk look like? So our listeners can envision. So there's Angela, and she's not like a big person, guys. When you see her, she's super cute and super in shape from all the walking, but she's carrying all that stuff. So you wake up and what happens?
Well, I think this is very important to say. I'm a coffee addict and I own it. So no joke, the very first thing I do is I get the boiling water going. And then I'll usually put, my oatmeal together, let it soak. And this is where the tent has to come down. Everything gets rolled up and then everything gets placed into my large duffel bag, which sits on top of Athena. So Athena, which is my cart, kind of has this lightweight wooden platform that the duffel bag sits on. And then I can just strap it and kind of tie it closed. And I'll usually take a look at where am I headed. I sometimes like to see either the night before or that morning, where do I want to walk? What route do I want to take? And usually there's 2 or 3 options. And have a sense of how far I want to get for the night. And that tends to usually be a little bit more intuitive. So about 2 hours before the sun goes down, I like to start looking for camp. So it gives me plenty of time to find a good spot and then pitch my tent. And I like to have my meal cooking and have eaten it before the sun goes down. So I'm a little bit like a hen in that way. I want to be in the sleeping bag, maybe reading a book on my Kindle, or just at least cozy and tucked in by the time the sun has gone down and it's dark. Okay.
So a good spot to pitch your tent. So Angela has a one people tent. And what is a good spot for the tent?
Right. So, and I love this because my mom is the only one who probably experiences this and understands so far. So I have basically 2 rules of thumb. So the first is, there's always the typical, you want somewhere flat, but you can't always find that. So I either tuck myself away so much so that if anyone were looking for me, it would be almost impossible. So meaning I want to really camouflage myself as much as possible. Now, if I'm in a populated area, let's say I'm on the outskirt of a town, that's when I decide if there's people around and I know I'm going to be visible. People might be walking their dogs or something might happen. Mm-hmm. Then I go for being as visible as possible. Like there's people around. So it sometimes it just kind of creates a better safety net. Mm-hmm. If I'm in a populated area, let me be visible to people. If I'm a little bit more in nature, I camouflage.
Okay, that's a good rule of thumb. I think especially by yourself, you want to make sure that not whoever comes by sees you in the woods and thinks, oh, there's a woman by herself. Do you wear a tracker when you walk, or how do people know where you are, Angela?
Right. So this actually comes from my mom as well. She wanted a way that she could see where I was walking, but also if I ever went missing. And so I do use a spot locator beacon, and it's set so that every hour it traces where I've walked. So, and I think it holds something like 1 to 3 months of the route, and then it clears it out. But it's more something that people can see, where is Angela right now, right? Okay. Where is she today? Where might she be headed? So it does locate where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it has a help signal too. So that was the thing too. I think that got mom. There's an SOS button. So
I think as a mom, I totally get to. I would want something too. I'm even nervous. My daughter is now in Budapest, and I only see her sometimes on Instagram when she posts that she's going to a rave or some cool party. And but for the last almost 3 months, she's been very quiet. So I'm a little nervous. And I said to my husband that I need to just kind of WhatsApp her and go, hey, let's catch up, because I'm still your mom. And I know I don't want to meddle with your life, but I damn sure want to make sure that you're okay.
Yeah. Yes, I get that. I think there's always those phases where when we're younger, we forget that checking in with mom really means the world. That's all you have to do, say I'm fine. And she can sleep at night. So, yeah.
Now, I was just listening or watching your video where you were singing as you were walking. I think it was in Switzerland. You have the most beautiful voice, Angela.
Oh, Heike, stop it. Stop.
Oh my God, you should hear me. I'm like, oh my, no. It's looking a little bit like Christmas. She's singing and you're like, you need to be singing for a living.
You're so sweet. You're so sweet. I love that. People do ask, how do I entertain myself? I do. I don't know. It's something about it feels cozy. It makes me feel like family. I sing Christmas tunes, especially when it's cold out. I was walking. It was like the video you're talking about. I think it was like the 3rd day I was walking through Switzerland, and this snow blizzard came on, the kind that I couldn't keep my glasses on, which I use sometimes for to see in the distance, because it was just dripping everywhere. And I thought, well, the best way to deal with this mentally is to sing some Christmas tunes and find the joy in it.
Yep. So when the seasons change where you walk, that was one of the questions that I had too, is how do you get clothes for when it's cold, like in Switzerland, or when you walked in Vietnam or Thailand? I remember one of the other, and it was really hot. So how do you do the clothes exchange?
Well, I think as long as I'm sticking to the 2 rule, right? So like, a pair of pants, a pair of shorts. I might have some thin socks as well as really thick socks. I carry 2 sleeping bags. So one is more of a summer base. And then when it's winter and I have a good winter one, I can put the thin one in with the thicker one. Mm-hmm. And then, I just have to have that extra weight. So for example, a really thick down jacket that I needed when I was in Mongolia, I do have to carry that when I'm going through spring and summer, and I don't use it, but it's always there in the duffel bag. Because again, the rule is, what can I fit in the duffel bag? And don't get me wrong, I'm still a girl. If I can strap it on and it fits, I'll use it. So it is in the duffel bag. Sometimes a little bit, strapped on top.
That's cute. So what happens, again, another story, because I'm like I said, I've been stalking you ever since you started walking. I'm like, I don't know where she is. What is she doing? What's her adventure like? You got, I think, malaria in one of the Asian countries you were traveling, or maybe I don't remember it correctly, but I remember you said, this lady put me in her shed or in her barn and fed me soup.
Yes, in Vietnam. Yeah. That it was one of those times that it was pivotal in the walk. It changed everything. So it was dengue fever. Right. It's called the High Van Pass, and it's quite famous for people on motorcycle or in cars that want to. It kind of goes straight up, and I can't remember. It was something like, I'd say 1,600 meters, but again, I'm really bad at math and even knowing that, so that might not seem like a lot, but let's just say it took me an entire day to walk straight up and another day to walk down. But when I reached the top, and this is like, it's something I'll absolutely never forget. It was so endearing. I was just getting up to the top, and it was extremely humid. And there's this slightly older, incredibly happy, she's got the classic Vietnamese hat on, and she's kind of whooping and yelling and clapping her hands. And I didn't know if, there were a lot of cars and people passing by. I didn't know if it was for me. I just said, but I'll take it. I don't know who that's for, but I could use that right now because today has been one long day. And yeah, I get to the top or near the top. She comes to me. She takes the cart, pushes it all the way up. It was probably about a good half a mile.
Oh, wow.
And she's got a little shack where she sells, Vietnamese coffee and chicken and noodles and soup. And so we're communicating. She knew absolutely no English. But what I could understand was she was on her motorbike. She saw me when she passed. She was excited that she saw me walking up to where she was. And she offered me to stay in the hut at night, but it was very open. And of course they have a lot of mosquitoes, and she put even a net up for me, but it had a lot of holes in it. And so throughout the night, I remember just being bitten. And Wow. It was about a week later that the symptoms set in. So, and that's also where I decided to change the route.
Okay. So people are generally very welcoming to you, it seems like, or people walk with you. Somebody compared it to, is she like Forrest Gump? And I'm like, yeah, kind of, but a little slower maybe and a different objective.
Just a little slower. Yeah, no running at all ever involved.
Yeah, but you had one story, and I think this is part of your TED Talk, is something not so good happened to you in Mongolia.
Yeah. So, and I like that you bring it up because oftentimes when I'm interviewed, people don't know where to go with it. And I think it's something that it's important to talk about, and it's not a wound for me. So in Mongolia, it had been about a month almost of walking. I was starting to really get comfortable, right? So I had walked across the outback in Australia on my own. I had walked in Vietnam, but of course, 2 weeks in, I got dengue, and that's when I decided in that healing process for about a month, I couldn't go out in daylight. I had such a difficult time just letting my body heal as much as possible. And that's when I decided I wanted to go up to Mongolia. I liked being in nature and not around as many people, and also less mosquitoes. So it was about a month in. I was very comfortable with myself. I felt like I finally got the knack of how to walk down. And then I was attacked by a Mongolian nomad in the middle of the night. And, there's something to be said about that I really feel is important, that it's not a Mongolian thing, because so often we talk about where it happens, right? It's a human thing. Mm-hmm. And that experience, as terrifying as it was also the night that I got to understand what it felt like to make a very difficult decision. And that was after being attacked and raped, in my tent, that I could give up and go home because this terrible thing had happened and I could be terrified forever, or choose to keep walking. And yeah, by the time the sun rose, I knew, as scared as I might be, and I was for a while, I was very guarded. I had a hard time, smiling at men and feeling comfortable for a little while. But by choosing to keep going, and cross, just getting through Mongolia itself to get to the Russian border, I think I really understood what it meant to move through fear. Yeah.
Did you seek any medical help after that?
No, I didn't do medical help. Actually, I got asked recently if I went to the police, and I didn't. And one of the things, I did later, but not in Mongolia, right? Mm-hmm. So in Mongolia, it was kind of more, I want to just do this. If I stop and get comfortable, I think I was a little bit afraid of the comfort. Like I needed to stay in the wind, in the cold, and keep pushing through. And then I would say something that was really magical for me. It was about 2 weeks after the incident happened, and I kept walking, and I had a little bit of a meltdown. I was standing on the top of this ridge where the Buddhists will put a rock temple, mm-hmm. right, with prayers. And I just thought, I just need a miracle. Anything. It could have been a hamburger. I was alone in the cold, and the wind was going right through me. I wasn't eating very much. I was like, but I know I'm supposed to keep walking. It just feels right in my heart to face that fear and just keep going. And about 2 hours after I made that prayer, a puppy that had chewed through his collar came running directly at me, and there was no gear around, which is like a yurt there. And he walked all the way across Mongolia with me, protecting me, didn't let people get near me. It was such a miracle. Oh my God. He particularly didn't like men, but also didn't like anyone coming at me. Like if I was sitting there eating, if they were going to come and like touch me or shake my hand, he was just very protective. I could sleep again at night. Every little sound, he would jump out of the tent and just bark. And he was just a miracle. And it's a heartbreaking story. I get a little teary-eyed because I had to leave him behind in Mongolia, but it was with a nomad that had a farm, and it's best for him.
Yeah. What did you call him?
Called him Oogie because right before he came to me, I had just passed Oogie Lake. I think it's actually pronounced like Oogie, but I just kind of made it simple, like OOGI, little Oogie.
Little Oogie. Oh my God, that is an incredible story, and that's also such a healing moment when you said your prayer and you said, "Now somebody help me," and there's Oogie.
Yeah, I'll take anything. It was just like saying to the heavens, I'll take anything. Now, I know I'm in the middle of Mongolia and you have very few resources.
Definitely no hamburgers, I would assume.
No hamburger. I would have taken even like a blossoming flower. It would have felt like just something inspiring, but a puppy was like more than I could have possibly imagined. So, yeah.
So you've been walking across Australia, the outback of Australia. You've been to Mongolia.
Mm-hmm. And so then from Mongolia, I couldn't get a visa to cross Russia in time. And I think because of what happened in Mongolia, I was seeking a little bit of ease. So actually what I did was I took a train and went to Tbilisi, Georgia, because I had a friend there. It was kind of a recuperating time for me. and I went from Tbilisi and walked to Batumi along the Black Sea, across Turkey down to Istanbul.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there decided I really wanted to jump into some of Europe. So I went down to Sardinia and Sicily and Italy.
And it happened that we were at the same time in Italy last year, except I was in the north and you were in the south.
Yes, I remember this. We've been trying to do this for a while.
Yep. And I was like, no, she's down there in Sicily somewhere and we're up in Venice. We're never going to get down there. And she's walking around. But we were at least in the same continent or the same country.
And little did we know that I would come to you. So I didn't even know I would do DC, but it's just kind of, that's what transpired. So I'm excited. I get to see you in person.
That's right. I'm so excited. So since we have Sue here, how does your family feel about your adventures?
Ooh. Well, I just have to say, I have to start. I think my memory is when I called my mom on the phone, because I was living in Oregon and she was here in Virginia Beach. And I said, Mom, I have this idea. Now, I know it's going to probably scare you a bit. Mm-hmm. And I tell her, she kind of processes it. And then I think maybe a few hours, she calls me back. And of course, I can't see her, but we're on the phone. And she says to me, Ange, I am literally on my knees begging you, please don't do this. I can't have anything happen to you. I wouldn't be able to handle it. Like, this is just ridiculous. It's crazy, right? It's just, I don't know how you're going to do this. And now she's my biggest fan. So yeah. How do you feel about it now? Yeah.
So you had to let her go, Sue.
I did. She's my free butterfly. And I'm a worrier, and I did worry about her a lot, but I realized it wasn't going to get her anywhere or myself. So I put it in God's hands and I gave it totally to him, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So you are going to walk with her again, but you already previously walked with her. When was that?
That was about a little more than a year ago. I went with her through a little bit of Scotland, the east coast of England, Holland, Belgium, and a little part of France.
How long ago? How long was the time you guys walked together?
It's a little more than 3 months.
Yeah.
But I actually did not walk. I actually rode a trike. It's a 3-wheel trike. It's a recumbent trike because I can't walk like she walks.
Okay. How cool. So this time you guys doing a duet again. What's going to happen? So let me backtrack. You're training for this. I saw a video of you guys in the gym. So, okay, guys, you need to know that Sue is no young chicken. Okay. She's 72.
Yes.
72. So she's a little younger than my mom, and she's in the gym busting her booty to get ready for this trip. And she's doing TRX and running stairs and all kinds of crazy things. So you also lost 15 pounds, Angela told me, through intermittent fasting. So tell us more about this whole, getting ready for the walk business.
Well, I want to stay in shape and I need to lose weight. I've always had to lose weight. And so Angie suggested try the keto way of eating. And I decided, okay, I'm all in for it. And I thought I wouldn't be able to keep on it. And I thought it'd be too hard, but actually it was very easy. I find plenty of food to eat. And of course, she's been so sweet to cook it for me. Yes, she cooks it for me.
I'm the chef. It helps.
Because I was used to my husband being the cook and I was the kitchen cleaner. So anyway, I've been on it. I've lost 15 pounds, as you said, and I feel very healthy. I don't need to snack, and I feel really good.
And see, that's what go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, she's quite humble here because she's, as you said, Heike, she's a bit of a beast. I mean, she's been coming to a gym here called Soldier Fit. And they have her flipping tires and pulling sleds. And I mean, it's quite unbelievable even to me that she's able to do this stuff. And normally, when I think about prepping, because there's been a lot of breaks in my walk occasionally, right? And usually it's because of visas or something. I love it that, I'm at 37 years old and I get to just eat whatever I want because I know when I walk, I'm going to lose weight, right?
Right.
But mom wanted to really prep. And so it actually set us up more for a kind of preparatory phase. And it's been bonding as well.
Yeah, because it's like through the clients that I've coached through intermittent fasting, and I made a big push this year in educating people on intermittent fasting, how good it is for you, how we get away from eating all the processed foods, how we feel better. We lose weight, with many of us starting menopause or perimenopause, we all gain the weight. I mean, unless you stop eating, you will gain rounder. It's just the way your hormones are. But I found, just like Sue, you get more strength, you get more energy as you eat more towards the keto, more fats, less carbs, more proteins in that direction. And there's so much food to find where people go, there's nothing to eat. I'm like, well, you may not have the scones and the muffins, but guess what? You can eat a delicious avocado, and lots of it, which is my favorite food.
Me too. But me too. I feel like people in the kid, they love avocado. Now here's the hard part. I'm the chef and mom despises avocados. So I always have to be creative of what I kind of can make.
You can put it in a smoothie. You can put some sriracha on it, so we spice it up.
We have found a way to do it. A friend of hers, we're trying to get the recipe. She made a dark chocolate souffle.
Ooh. I've seen that. Yes.
Oh, I ate it. It was delicious.
And it had avocado.
It's like when you hide it in for kids, like vegetables or something. It's like, okay, try this. Oh, that's really good. Well, that's avocado. And it's like, what? Like, yes, I'm learning the tricks. But I would say just to add, because I also do the intermittent fasting, and doing it, like when I'm walking, sometimes it happens naturally, but in this kind of preparatory phase, I've been doing that, and mom has as well. And the only difference for mom, because she has fibromyalgia and arthritis, mm-hmm. and COPD and lots of things where she's always dealing with inflammation, which is one of the reasons I recommended her to try the keto. Not so much weight related, that's a good benefit, but I wanted her to be in less pain. And so she does the intermittent fasting, but she does have in the morning, which I know does kind of break the fast a little bit, but she has a bulletproof cocoa. So she does do that kind of, in the late morning, so that she can then go until, 3 or 4 in the afternoon.
Yep. Adding some MCT oils into your diet is definitely super helpful. And I know, not from my own experience, but from the people I've worked with, that all this change in lifestyle helps so much reduce the inflammation. It's such a huge benefit, and improves sleep. As we get older, we sleep less or sleep less well. So congratulations. That's all I can say to you. Oh,
thank you. It's really not that hard.
See, people, listen to this. Sue says it's not that hard.
If a 72-year young woman who's about to go cycling, portion of the United States says it's not that hard. I mean, it is pretty impressive, right? It's almost like if I didn't bring it to her, she would have brought it to me.
Yep. This is so super cool. Now, let me change subject a little bit. So how do you support yourself on the road? Is there a trust fund that you draw out of, or do you occasionally work, or how do you support yourself financially to do all these ventures?
Right. So it's interesting, especially in the adventure world. People always love to know, like, how do you fund doing this, right? So one thing that's important to know is I've never had sponsors. The only thing that I've ever been sponsored is my Hilleberg tent, which I do love. I had researched them before. And before I ever got out the door, they gave me a tent. It was brilliant. It was just like I was someone with a crazy idea, hadn't even taken my first step. So the reason that I started the $5 a day is because it was the only way I could afford it. So it wasn't necessarily that I longed to have such a minimal amount of money to spend, right? Because I'd love to eat better, right? If I could have been eating, more fats and less carbs on the road, things might have been different. But I calculated if it's going to take about 5 to 6 years to walk, then, and I basically sold everything, and I had $10,000, but I didn't own much. I had, a car, and I had the household items and things. So I just sold it all. I literally don't own anything other than what fits into a duffel bag. I do have a box at my best friend's house that I started from in Oregon, and those have some cowgirl boots and a few books in them. But for the most part, my clothes, every single thing I owned. So I said, okay, if I'm starting with $10,000, I know I don't have a nest egg, but if I spend about $5 a day, this is how I could afford to actually walk around the world. And then what I opened up to was people could donate. The people could give. I know that I like to giving to people in need. So I thought, well, I'll let them, if they want to donate a meal or something like that. And I thought, since I was going to take donations, I wanted my adventure to be a catalyst as well. So that's when I started the 50% rule. Any donations that come to me, I'll then give 50% to an organization or to a person that needs it.
Oh, do you have an organization that you give to at this point?
Yeah. So this leg across the U.S., I've partnered with Her Future Coalition, which focuses on sheltering, educating, and employing children, girls, and women who have been saved from gender violence and sex trafficking. And I want to help build a shelter for young girls. And this part of the walk is a little different because for the past 5 years, it's been 50%. And so I thought, as I walk home, this last leg, which will probably take me about a year to a year and a half, I'm going to give 100% to HFC. So I'm really upping the ante of my experiment of living on less.
So it's called Her Future Coalition, right?
Yes, correct. And then you can go there, .org, herfuturecoalition.org.
.org. So we put a link in the show notes so it's easier for you guys to find, but definitely scope all this out. And when you see Angela, give her some money or buy her a meal or let her sleep in your yard. So don't hold back. You know her.
Or a puppy, No, I'm kidding.
So interesting. So the next leg goes where? General direction.
So the kind of basics here is that we'll, of course, start in Washington, D.C. on April 6th. My mom will be there at the Lincoln Memorial, and we'll do a kind of a one-day walk for 7 miles to Old Town Alexandria. And then I think we'll walk up towards New York, and then start heading west. And my goal is to make it to the Pacific Ocean. Where in California, I don't know. I like it to be intuitive, right? And then I'll continue up north because I do have a goal of getting back to my best friend's house, which is where I started, 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
And yeah.
Yeah.
I was telling her, she said I'm going to meet her or be there at Lincoln Memorial. It's at 10 o'clock. So if anybody wants to join us, come on, more the merrier. We need you.
Yeah, we let people know because the podcast will air after you guys have left already. But we'll definitely let people know where you're going and how they can reach you. Now, final words. What would you tell somebody? I wouldn't say who wants to start walking, but who wants to change her life in whatever direction that may be. You started to walk. I had children. What would you tell somebody if it's something that's scary or seems impossible? What would you tell somebody from your experiences that you gathered along those 5 years?
That's good. I think what comes to mind is to kind of recognize that being fearless is a myth. And so I firmly believe if you have this idea and this calling to do art or just to start something new or whatever it might be, like you said, there's something that really compels you in your heart. You have to do it when right next to it is fear. So it's the most interesting things we do in our life. I mean, getting married, having kids, right? Like I feel there's always that stage of, oh, I'm so excited to have a child, but there's always a little bit of anxiety about the birth, right? So there's always this excitement that you know is saying that's the direction to go. And when you've got fear right next to it, you know that that's the perfect place to go. So know that you're going to feel fear. And as you move through it, the reward of following your heart is the greatest feeling in all of life.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Sue, what about you? Final words from you.
Well, I'd like to say that I lost my husband about 3 weeks ago and his stepfather, and life is going to totally change. And I'm also moving and everything, and I needed this time to get away from everyday life, just kind of be out in nature, be on my own, and kind of really wrap my head around all the changes that are happening and that are going to still be happening. So it's good for me, and I'm looking forward to it.
So basically she says it's never too late to start something new.
Correct.
Yep, I agree. So I am so excited, and I hope a lot of people will join you and follow you. We're putting all the links in the show notes for you guys. So reach out, donate, walk with Angela and Sue. And don't be shy to introduce yourself to them and get to know them. Because as they're heading up, and also listen to her TEDx talk, it makes me cry every time. So I'm like, just thinking about Angela, this really touched my heart. So it was such a pleasure to talk to you ladies today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Heike. Yeah, it's a real honor. And the fact that we've known each other for over 10 years. Thanks for bringing us to your audience. And I've been stalking you too, you know, it's right back at you. So I feel so blessed. And I'll see you in DC soon.
Yes, we'll see you soon. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So there you have it. Wasn't that just an unbelievable story? Would you do this kind of thing? Packing up your bags and just go off? Walk the world or any other adventures just like that because you felt compelled to do it? Let us know in the show notes or contact Angela or myself and let us know what you think about the episode. Please donate to her future coalition. It would mean a lot to Angela and to me. Reach out to her on Instagram, her website, on Facebook. We'll put all those links in the show notes. And if you see her on the road, walk with her. So until next time, have a great day. Ciao.